Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is Monday, and it is October the 28th, just a couple days away from Halloween. I'm going to try and get 2 builds done this week. Certainly going to try and at least get one of them done. We'll see what happens. Might turn out to be a Halloween build after all if the parts show up in time. Out of my hands at this point, but there will be a brand new build tomorrow, and ideally Mitch will be joining me. We'll find out. But that is currently on my agenda. Thanks you guys so much for joining me. Welcome in. My name is Carey Holzman, and this is my live broadcast for today, which mostly is going to wrap up or update what's been happening with regards to some of the information conveyed in the last video. For example, this computer back here. I got some answers on that, which I will share with you, and a demonstration, and then I was updating my laptop. I was going to review a product today, but that product is not scheduled to be released for 2 weeks, so I'm not allowed to. So that was for nothing. In the meantime, welcome in, everybody. Good to see all my friends in blue joining, and friends that I hope will one day be blue soon. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining me today. And we're just going to give people a few minutes to jump in and join us. I really like this Logitech mouse I've been using here. And let's see, who do we got in the chat? Let's say hello to Mark Baggett, Jesse Kirk, Ben DeCoeur, Andrew Default, Eddie Casanova, Luke Greenia, Harry Byton, Vern Mahorney, Bordeaux Catalan, Piano Instrumentalist, Burl Bull, Michael Mancini, Thomas Carter, William Dawson, Stephen Bernstein, Zen Carter, 2 Carters, Thomas Carter and a Zen Carter. Danny Hall, Patrick Rusaw. I see Acronis has joined us. Hey, welcome in, Acronis. Always happy to see Acronis. Sharon Idle, Rich Robbins. Rich has been on the show. He's been a guest here. Stealth Mode, Mats Olav Rickardson. Past Me, Wayne Lawrence, Robert Jones, John Peck, Francois Guibal, John Craig, Patrick Manny Alcui, Paul Wright, Sergio Gutierrez, Andy Nicolau, Edgar Sanz. Thank you guys for joining. And hello to John Brady, Steve Grove. It looks like I missed a couple people there. So, we're getting some people jumping in now. So I'll tell you what happened. I talked to this customer, and a couple of things have resulted in some understanding maybe of what happened. When I first received this computer, it was packed wrong. When I ship these computers, and I've shown in a previous video how I ship them, the computer goes back into the box the case came in, and then that case lays flat with a bunch of packing material around it inside a box that's twice as tall. And when I received this computer, it was in a box where they had put it back in the case box, but they then put that box into another box without any packing material. So it was improperly packed. It had literally another box that was tight around the case box with no packing. So it was like they just made the box double walled without any additional packing material. Furthermore, we like to indicate this side up, to show which side the graphics card is sitting upright and not hanging upside down. And this side up, rather than being pointing normally when I ship this, I would lay this case flat, and I would say point this side up, so the graphics card is, so this is laying in the box with gravity like this, and then they put this side up. Well, they had this side up put this way, so that it was pointing to the top of the case, which was very strange. Now, it only traveled about 300 or 400 miles, but it was enough to cause damage. The second thing that happened was the customer opted not to pay for the insurance because he was told it would cost him, basically it had cost me about $95, somewhere around there, to get it boxed and shipped to him in California with the full $2,700 worth of insurance. He was told it'd be $160 to send it back to me, which doesn't make any sense. if they insured it for its full value. So he said, well, forget the insurance because it'll be 1/3 the price, right? I mean, or 1/4 of the price based on what he was paying to ship it back. And he's disabled, so he's not actually shipping it back himself. He's telling somebody who's helping him, hey, do me a favor, take this to FedEx, put me on the phone with them, I'll explain what they need to do. It appears the damage was caused through shipping. And unfortunately, without any insurance on it, the issue now is going to be whether or not EVGA will honor the warranty or not, whether or not they'll notice it. The reason why there was duct tape down in here was the customer had taken the panels off to install the cabling for the additional drives that they've got, and they didn't know what they did with the screws. So the 4 screws that went to both panels, 2 screws on each side, total of 4, just misplaced them. And since he was sending the machine back, he wanted to secure the panels, so he took 2 screws out of the bottom here and put 1 on each panel. So you remember I mentioned there was only 1 on each panel. And then he just used some duct tape to hold those pieces back in. So that's how we got there. Now, he claims the graphics card was causing problems prior to him shipping it, which is, of course, why he shipped it to me. However, the manufacturer, and I had to explain this, the manufacturer does not care. You bring them something that is physically damaged and say, yeah, but it wasn't working before that. Well, that's what everybody would say, so they can get it fixed for free. So that's a definite no-go from manufacturers. So I had the customer send me a copy of the receipt. I guess it was about $1,100 for this graphics card. And then I have to go online and fill out the RMA forms and send it back, and we'll see what EVGA says. Hopefully they just replace it. In the meantime, I went ahead and the customer said there was no data on the drive that he needed. He thought there was, but there wasn't. So I went ahead and just wiped it clean, did a fresh install of Windows 10 with all the updates, the optimizer, and it's just waiting on a graphics card at this point. It's ready to rock and roll. So that's where we're at, and the customer knows that they screwed up. I mean, they didn't know. They'd never shipped the computer before. He certainly knows the box and how it was shipped to him. And it was his intent to ship it back to me that way, but because of his disability, he had to rely on somebody else to do that. And had he known, he would have simply put it right back in the same box and done all of that correctly with this side up and everything, and just had them take it to the FedEx store, So that's a real unfortunate thing, because at least with the insurance claim, we could go through the process of filing a claim if EVGA doesn't honor it. It may be a situation, if EVGA doesn't honor it, and because he did not buy the insurance and it was not packed correctly, that he will have to buy another video card, and he has accepted that. That'll be the cost of a lesson learned, and that's a very expensive lesson to learn. In most cases, the lessons don't cost more than about $100. Like if you screw something up when you're building your first computer, chances are your first computer is not going to have an $1,100 graphics card. So I don't want this to dissuade you or discourage you from thinking, oh, I better not try that. What if I fail? You're probably not going to fail. And if things do break, you try the RMA process first. And if that doesn't work, then you buy another one and you chalk it up as a lesson learned. And if that doesn't make you feel any better, why don't you look up what a semester at your local college, community college, will cost for books and credit hours to take a class on computers. Then I think you'll find $100 is a bargain all day long, for the experience that you'll get. I want to talk about experience. You've heard me talk a lot about, there's a lot of self-proclaimed experts on the internet who think they know all about spreading thermal compound and fan placement and positive air pressure and negative air pressure, and they've never actually done anything. All they do is watch videos, and they tend to think, many people that I'm encountering online, tend to replace that with experience as though they did that themselves. And so when something is done improperly or the testing's not complete, they don't know the difference. They don't know what's been edited out. They don't know what's been manipulated or if any money's changed hands or what the agenda is of the video creator. So the only way you really know is through doing, through the actual experience of doing it, not through my experience of doing it, not through some other YouTube's tech channel for doing it. These channels should exist, I hope, to give you an idea of what to expect, but not to rob you of an experience. It's not like you can say, well, Carey's already laughed today, so I don't need to laugh today. I watched Carey laugh. No, you don't get to feel what I felt. You know what I mean? You have to experience that to feel it. So in the same way, when people ask me what's the best graphics card, what should I upgrade from this to this, it's really just a question only you can answer, or somebody who really knows you well. And so to just really drive that point home today, because I feel like just a lot of people are refusing that. Like I explain it and it doesn't connect with them. So I'm going to find another way to connect with you today. I have hot nuts. Yeah, I said it. Now, I've got the Peanut Shop hot habanero chili pepper nuts. I've got some South Korean hot and spicy chicken almonds. I don't know. And I've got hot nuts. Pain is good. I would like for you to tell me, you can watch other YouTube videos on these products if you like right now. I would like for you to tell me which one of these I prefer. Tell me. I'm going to tell you the correct answer is there's no way for you to know which ones of these I prefer. They're brand new, unopened. I've never had them before. I don't even know which one of these I prefer. So when somebody comes out online in Reddit or on the chat and they go, hey, which graphics card should I buy? You, in my opinion, should not be offering them any suggestions without further understanding the person who's asking. What games are you going to play? Or how are you going to be using this graphics card? Maybe they're not gaming. Maybe they're video rendering. What's your budget? What's the rig you have now? What size power supply do you have now? What do you intend on doing a year from now? Do you intend on still using the computer for the same thing and playing the same games? Or do you intend on maybe getting to 2 monitors or 4K or doing VR? There's so many questions that have to be asked. But in general, on the internet, people don't ask follow-up questions. Somebody says, hey, can you tell me? And somebody goes, yeah, I'd be happy to tell you. I'm desperate for attention, and I would love it if somebody would ask me my advice. I so desperately want to help people, but you're not helping people. You're misleading people. Things could be phrased like, well, if I was you, that's not even right. If you were me, this is what I would buy, would be a more accurate statement. If you were me, because I don't know anything about you, but I know me, and I know this is what I would buy, and this is my budget, and these are my expectations. What's that got to do with you? Nothing. So the safe answer is, I don't know, without knowing more about you. So when you see people on the internet offer up advice without offering up any, asking any follow-up questions, what they're saying is, what you want doesn't matter. Only what I want matters, and I'm going to tell you what I want. And so based on that, everybody wants what I want. That's very egotistical, and ultimately it's not very helpful. You have to have your own experiences. You've got to do your own research. There's a lot of different variables in place. And just because they ask follow-up questions doesn't mean they ask the important ones. And it's your money, and you're the one who's going to end up being remorseful or regretful. The other person who helped bears no liability or accountability as to what your experience turns out to be. So, which of these am I going to like? Will I like any of them? Which one's the best value for me? Which one is too hot for me? Are they all too hot for me? How can you possibly know? The fact that you would even guess suggests that you don't even care. Like if somebody says, well, you're going to like that one because this is like a game, right? We're playing a game. No, I'm being serious. I'm being absolutely serious. When somebody asks me which video card should I buy, and they make $12 or $14 an hour, and that graphics card can run from $300 to $1,500 or more. Like, I don't know how much money they make. I don't know how long they've been saving. I don't know what they have sacrificed. I don't know if they're a trust fund baby that just has money coming out their ears and doesn't care. I don't know anything about them. And so to make any recommendation at all without certain conditions like, hey man, I don't know you, but here's what I would buy, that's fine. It's not helpful, but basically what you're telling them is nobody can answer your question. It's not possible. You have to do your own research. So, all right. So these whatever these are, I'm gonna try these. I got my Coke handy. Oh, the dogs want some. No, you guys definitely can't have this. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? No. Yes, this is not good for dogs. I'm not even sure it's good for humans. All right. All right, let's see. A little strong. Hot and spicy almonds. It's supposed to be like Korean chicken and spice. Oh, it's tasty. Oh, I'll eat this whole bag. Oh my. Oh, let's go. Got some heat. Heat's coming up. It's not overpowering, but it's certainly enough to slow me down and keep me from eating the whole bag in one sitting, which is good. Jamie says he just got in some Carolina Reaper hot sauce today. Well, better you than me. All right, I'm going to move to the next one. This is the Peanut Shop Hot Habanero, Hot Habanero Chili Pepper Nuts. All right. I've never had these before. I have no idea what's in store for me. There's that packet you're not supposed to eat. Spicy packet. Tastes like peanuts. Not a lot of flavor. I don't get it. What's the deal? They should have more salt or something. All right. There's nothing. No big deal. All right. So far, this and this, no big deal to me. Maybe to you, not to me. And I'm not one of those people that, you know, I like spice, but I don't like too much. Okay. That really didn't even have much of a burn afterwards either. No big deal. Now this, this says pain is good. So I'm expecting these on the scale, there should be, now that I've had these two, and I can still feel a little tingle. It's a little tingle. It's not a big deal. I expect these, I should be very scared. All right. Once again, never had these before. I have no idea. You can't just go online and watch a video and go, oh, well, I'm going to like those. that's going to be good for me. You can't. You can sort of get an idea. You can be like, maybe that might be. But the only way you know for sure is to actually do it, right? So for all I know, I'm psyching myself out over something. Maybe this is hotter. Maybe that's hotter. Are you going to tell me? And what you think is hot, what I think is hot, are two entirely different things. This is no different when people are asking, what motherboard should I buy? Is Intel better than AMD? All right, there we go. This one's got me a little scared, if I'm honest. Because that marketing, surely, pain is good. Marketing kind of has me worried. All right. I kind of taste old. None of these are any big deal. Well, that was very anticlimactic. All right, none of them. None of these are too hot to eat. They're all fine. So, these definitely had the most, for me, these had the most flavor. This feels like it needs salt. This tastes like it, something's off about it. Maybe it's the seasoning that's causing that flavor to be almost like a, they're not stale. They're crunching fine, but they have a smell that smells stale. They don't taste or have a texture of stale. So maybe that's just the seasoning. Oh, pain is good. This is pain. Really? So again, who are you going to believe? Do I look like I'm having that expression on my face right now? Does that measure of hot right there accurately represent my reaction to eating this? I'm not a spicy foods guy. I like a medium, like if I ordered chicken wings, buffalo wings, I like a medium. Mild's too mild, hot's too hot. With these, with that in mind, and knowing that there's all different kinds of levels of medium, those are not making my eyes water or so I'll have to get some more until I find something that's too hot to eat, because I can't just go online. Look, I can go online. Let me put it this way. I can go online and I can buy the most expensive graphics card that's available and say, well, that probably will meet my needs if I can afford it. But it might be way more than I need. I could buy, if money's no object, maybe buy a Ferrari and I just use it to take kids back and forth to school, which defeats the whole purpose of having it. It's overkill. It's more than what's necessary, and I'm overpaying. So when we find out what's right for you, the only way we know that is to either get to know you better or to set you on a path where you can help yourself, which is what I'm actually trying to do here. This is the example I'm trying to give. And the reason I say this is I'm sure I can go on Amazon and I can do the Death Nut Challenge and I will find that to be too hot. But that's way overkill for me. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I can handle any heat. I never said that. I never said that. But what I was worried about is that these were going to be too much. These over here were going to be too hot for me. And no matter what videos I see or what anybody says, the only way that I'm going to know is for me to try it. Getting it yet? Am I getting the message across? My nose is running a little bit because They do have spice, don't get me wrong. They're certainly got a bite to them, but it's not like it's not like my mouth is on fire. Not even close. So, anyway, let's see what I'm missing in the chat room. Glenn Davies has contributed $2 and he says, we're all sitting here watching you go nuts today. Rich Robbins says, give it 5 minutes. I don't think so. Usually, in my experience with hot foods, it may take 30 seconds or a minute after you swallow it to sort of come back up. But I've never... So to me, if you've got to wait 5 minutes, that sort of defeats the whole purpose. Because I'll just keep eating them. James Bovey's contributed $2. He says, here's $2 for some Pepto. Okay. And people are like, oh, be afraid. Here comes the pain. It's not here. There's no pain. What else? What else? Frank says he wants to share with you an excellent customer service support experience he recently had with Acronis. Yeah, Frank, tell us about it. The lighting may be a little different. I changed all these lights out. I don't know if they're bright enough. That's my problem. I have to spend all this money on lights, and I just don't know if they're going to work or not as far as brightness. These are the, what do they call them? Like True Light or something? I can't remember exactly. They're supposed to bring more of the natural color out. Try some Flamas Doritos. Yeah, so speaking of that, one of the things I found is the the stuff that they're marketing to the mass public as hot isn't hot at all. And I got 2 other bags here just to explore this a little further. These are called pop chips, and they're potatoes that are put under pressure. They're not fried or baked. They're just sort of put under pressure and they pop. And it says these are crazy hot. I have to agree. If you think these are hot, you're crazy. There's nothing hot about these at all. Not hot. But they're delicious. Now I realize some of you, I don't even take a drink, I don't even need it. Some of you might be saying, well, maybe, Carey can eat hotter things than he's leading us to believe. Customers will do that too. Customers will say, I'm not using it for much. Or a customer might say, I'm using it for some huge task, and it's a task they very rarely, if ever, do. Or to them, it's a huge task, but to you, it's not. So that's why you've got to be very specific. Now, I honestly really don't have that much of a tolerance for heat. It's more than it was 20 years ago, but it's not excessive. I'm not one of those guys that's like, what's the hottest thing you got on, not that guy. So they make these Cheetos. They make flaming hot Cheetos, and then they got the extra flaming hot Cheetos. These are not extra flaming hot. These are hot. These are hot. They're not extra hot. And again, delicious. However, I could eat this whole bag with nothing to drink and go sit down on the couch and watch some TV. See what's on YouTube. They're hot, not extra hot. They're not even hot enough to make me want to put the bag down, which is what I was hoping. All right, and there's the Carey diet right there. So, and I want to be careful with this cheese dust. You don't want to get that in your eye. You don't want to touch your face. And so this is where we run into the issue of advice on the internet, and why I'm encouraging all of you to ask for where you can find the information. But ultimately, you need to do the research to benefit you, your budget, your needs, your desire. Don't put that off on somebody else, and certainly somebody you're not paying, and then expect the information you're going to be getting back is actually worth your consideration. In most cases, it is not. I love those Cheetos, though. Man, those are good. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I'm eating something, I want to taste it. I don't just want to have heat. That doesn't do anything for me. I'll just go eat fire. So if somebody serves me something, this is me I'm talking about. If somebody serves me something that's just hot, there's no flavor to it. Now we're just dealing with texture and heat. And then you're just trying to figure out, am I going to chew this and swallow it, or am I going to just spit it out and walk away? That's no fun either way for me. There's no enjoyment there. I like to enjoy what I'm eating. I like to be able to taste it. And I would hope that the heat is there enough to slow me down from eating the whole darn bag. Now, what is that for me, and what is it for you? I doubt they're both going to be the same product for both of us. Monty has contributed $2. He goes, what happened to the new build? The build starts tomorrow, just as we talked about. Monty? Yeah, we're doing that. It'll be a system. It'll be Monty's third computer that he's ordered from me. And the plan is for Mitch to come over tomorrow and work the camera and hang out. And we're going to build not a super high-end machine. It'll be a nice machine. I don't think we're using any discrete graphics. I think just onboard graphics is all we're using. And I got another build coming up after that. And that build, that's just going to be for fun. I need to review a case and a power supply from the folks over at why am I not thinking of their name right now? Hold on, I got to look at their. This is embarrassing. The case is from. Oh, duh. Be Quiet. Been working with the folks over at Be Quiet. They sent me a case and power supply, and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with this? So last night, as a matter of fact, I ordered a bunch of parts. I ordered an i9 9900, not a 9900K. I've got some RAM left over I'll use. I ordered a 2 terabyte Intel 660p because I think those are just the best value for the money right now. And I ordered something else I ordered. Got the case, the power supply, the motherboard, the CPU. I've got heat sinks here already. I feel like I'm forgetting something. The Intel 660p. Maybe that's it. So I just put that order in last night. We'll see how long it takes for stuff to get here. Some of the stuff I've ordered from B&H Photo because Newegg is not only charging sales tax, they're required to now, where Newegg was only charging sales tax within California and maybe some other state, but now they're charging sales tax everywhere like Amazon. Amazon didn't have the motherboard, but Newegg did. And Amazon's going to charge the sales tax, but I get free shipping. Newegg was charging the sales tax plus charging me for some shipping. So I went to B&H Photo where there's still no sales tax, for me anyway, with free shipping. And I'm slowly shifting a lot of my ordering off to B&H Photo. What I'm concerned about with B&H Photo is what their customer service is like. The camera that I'm using to record this or to go live is from B&H Photo. They ship out, in my experience, they've been slower to get me the stuff when I order it because it's coming from the other side of the United States. But they've had the best prices and no sales tax, and I haven't had to return anything, so I don't know what that process is like. So it's changing, and the number of sites online that are going to be collecting sales taxes is going to be 100%. We're eventually going to get there. But in the meantime, when you're spending $1,000 on parts, sales tax can be 10% of whatever you're spending. In the case of this camera, that's like $250. You're still supposed to claim and pay for your local state sales tax. You're supposed to. I don't know how many people do that or do it fully, and honestly, it's easy to forget things. It's easy to if there's no checks and balances in place to verify it, ignorance is bliss, I guess. But anyway, some folks like B&H there in the chat, and that's good. I've had a good experience with B&H over the years. I've ordered from them for years, but it's just maybe 2-3 times a year. And now I got a feeling that based on the sales tax collection from Newegg and Amazon now, Newegg in most cases has the same price as Amazon, but Amazon can give me the Prime ship. I've got Prime, so I can get stuff the next day. In fact, this stuff that I just messed around, not this, but the nuts that I was trying, I ordered those last night, and they were here this morning. And I've got more coming, stuff that's supposed to be really, really hot. If it was here, I'd keep going. So. Yeah, Be Quiet sent the power supply as well. So I'm going to test their power supply in their case. Scott wants to know, he says, this is usually how misinformation is spread. So I can already tell. I was having a chat with one of my friends the other day. Oh yeah, here we go. Because your friends are all the experts, right? I can assure you whatever your friend told you was, I'm going to just tell you in general, when anybody starts a sentence, anybody starts a question that starts with, my friend said, or my brother said, or my coworker said, I immediately know what's coming, which is somebody has taken something out of context and twisted it to their limited ability of understanding, and then parroted it back out to you. So let's see if this is the case here. Having a chat with one of my friends, and we were discussing firewalls. He said I should be running a firewall in my router and a software firewall. Is this true? Yes, that is true. And if you have a router, it is a firewall that is hardware. Using the word router and using the word hardware firewall is like saying I have a car automobile. Because you're running Windows, Windows has a built-in firewall, software firewall, that is enabled whether you like it or not. So your friend is right, but misunderstands or doesn't comprehend what a router is and what network address translation is, nor does your friend understand that the firewall is built in and turned on and working within Windows, without any permission or knowledge from you. So you've got a hardware firewall and you've got a software firewall, and they are both running. So yes, par for the course with my friend said. So the information conveyed by friends is often correct, but the way it is interpreted is often wrong. So basically, you guys discuss nothing. It's like you're eating dinner and he says, you know, you should really eat dinner. I'm eating dinner right now. Thanks for the tip. All right. If you guys, my nose is running now. Just from that little bit of spice that didn't really, you know. I had some, the hottest thing I've had was these, Carey makes these ghost pepper tortilla chips. And those I can eat about 3 of them, and then I need a break. And the good thing about that is the bag will last a lot longer. Otherwise, I'd eat that whole bag of chips. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. I do appreciate your question. I've been doing this nearly 30 years, and if you could just possibly imagine what it's like to keep repeating the same process for 30 years, just imagine getting the same style of question for 30 years. And it might help you to understand my reaction to it at this point versus if you'd have asked me 30 years ago, right? Because when it was new and fresh, you know, it's like, oh, let me share this information with you. But I've been doing that for nearly 30 years, and I'm like, here we go again. It's weird how that information seems to spread more than actual useful information, accurate. I don't know why that is. That's a part of, especially with the internet, that's a part I don't get. Like by now, shouldn't the invalid information or incomplete or misunderstood information represent this much of information on the internet? And shouldn't the truth be represented by a much larger scope? I don't understand why that's not the case. It's very strange to me. Martin wants to know, is it possible in the future for PCs to become as big as just one regular GPU from nowadays? They're already out. They're already there. Just look at your cell phone. That's a computer. Darren Cluth has contributed $2. Hey, thank you, Darren. Do you ever have energy drinks, Carey? Yes. I've had every day I do those little 5-hour extra strength energy shots. I've tried a number of different forms of sort of pick me up. You get older, guys, and your energy you just don't have the energy you have when you're younger. Your metabolism slows down, and it seems like, for me anyway, days get shorter and shorter and shorter as I'm trying to cram more and more things, trying to get things done. And when you have a combination of low energy, a big to-do list, and it feels like you just woke up, but 10 hours have gone by, and you've only got a couple of things done on that to-do list, it's a little stressful. So I tried a couple of products. I tried like nootropic stuff, which for me doesn't do anything for me at all. I think I have the opposite problem. A lot of people do those, I think they're called nootropics. It's to make your brain go faster, but I need my brain to slow down. So I don't notice any difference on that stuff. B12 doesn't really do a whole lot. Just pure old caffeine, and I'm not a coffee or tea drinker at all. So for me, the only way I'm going to get that is either through a caffeine pill, and I've done those, and I've got those as a matter of fact, or through a caffeinated drink. So for a while I was doing these energy drinks, and they're too much to drink. I'm just not that thirsty. So then I switched over to the energy shots, and some of the energy shots work better than others. I found that the Kirkland brand that Costco sells, I get the extra strength ones. I think you get 40 bottles, 38 bottles, or 40 bottles for around, how many bottles is it? Anyway, whatever many bottles it is, it's like under $1 a bottle. And one of those, when I wake up, that's my coffee. That's my version of coffee. So yeah, and then sometimes I switch that and do like a caffeinated pill. They have something called Genius Caffeine. They also have time released. And that seems to give me the pick-me-up I need to get me moving. Then the opposite issue happens at night where I can't slow down. And all that's just from one energy drink, plus whatever caffeine I'm getting from, a Coke that I might drink. But I desperately need it because my energy levels are at about 40% of what they used to be. And I realize it, and it bothers me. Marty says he loves his Be Quiet computer. Yeah, Marty got the, so Be Quiet had sent me a case prior, and it was right around the time Marty was asking me to build a second computer for him, and I said, hey, why don't we kill two birds with one stone? I can get you a free case. I get to review this case and build in it. And I really did like that case. The case Be Quiet has sent me is a smaller case. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. I can never remember this stuff. This is a Pure Base 500 with a straight power 11, 650 watt Be Quiet, 80 plus gold power supply. So really nice quality parts there. So maybe Halloween, I can build that on Halloween. I don't know yet. A lot of people, what I see a lot on the internet is just what I'm seeing in the chat room now. Energy drinks are bad for you, and then they give you an example of how it harmed them. No. When you said you meant yourself. They're not bad for me. None of that happened to me. None of that's ever happened to me. And none of that is probably ever going to happen to me. So this is a problem I have on the internet, right? You can say, hey, energy drinks are bad for me. This is what it did to me. But I don't have your biochemistry, your physiology. I don't have your diet. I don't have your constitution. So when people relay what's bad for them as if it's bad for everybody, I don't know, there's a certain amount of narcissism in it, and I'm not sure they're fully aware that they're hearing what they're saying. It's not very useful to people. Furthermore, I've made it clear, and if I haven't, I will continue to make it clear, that I don't care if something is good for me or bad for me. What I care about is if I'm happy. And that's the most important thing to me. All right, let's see what else we've got going on in the chat. Luke says, I just deposited the usual $20 in your PayPal account for the best darn community on the net. Right on, Luke. Thank you so much. Luke is definitely a fantastic member of this amazing community that we are creating here online of supportive and kind and friendly people. And, I was thinking the other day of the people who like to just, be nasty. And when I see them, sometimes these trolls will come in the chat room, and when I see them now, I just feel bad for them. I feel bad, not only that they are such miserable people, but I also feel grateful to myself that I'm not behaving like that. Like some people, they want to write a negative review about something, and they want to make sure everybody hears them. And somehow they get some weird dopamine release in their head that makes them feel better about it. So I had this idea. Probably shouldn't even be sharing this idea. It's probably $1 million idea. I feel like somebody should sell a product called Bad Review on Amazon. Have a product called Bad Review. And for 99 cents, which I think is the cheapest price you can put on Amazon, you can write a bad review about this product. So you can get that good feeling that you've just saved people. You can get that dopamine or whatever it is that makes you need to do that. For 99 cents, you can get that feeling. And maybe even say, hey, maybe you can write a worse review than the one before you. Because people seem to be getting something from that. There's some chemical, some form of dopamine being released in the brain Otherwise, they'd stop doing it. Like if it was painful or hurtful, they wouldn't do that. If every time you touched the stove, you burned yourself, you'd stop touching the stove. But there tends to be people, like if you look on Yelp, they don't just write one negative review. If they've got one negative review, they've got many. And they must get some sense of fulfillment or justice that makes them feel better. So why not charge them $1, 99 cents, say, come on in here and you can feel better. Come in here, buy this bad review, which is just the name. You don't actually get anything. And then warn everybody that they shouldn't waste their money on it. I think I got $1 million idea. I think the world needs this. They need an outlet for their anger and anxiety and injustice, since they don't know how to be happy, since they don't know how to be grateful for what they have, and they don't know how to just walk away from something and go, well, that didn't work out for me, or even try to negotiate, perhaps if they have a problem. No level of negotiation in many cases, just let me slam this and warn everybody about the evil. People are just evil, and because I said so. There's no way you had a positive experience. Your experience doesn't matter, because I was wronged. I want everybody to know I was wronged. Do you know why? Because it makes me feel better. So would you pay 99 cents to feel better? It's a brilliant idea. I'm telling you, it's a brilliant idea. Totally should do that. I was looking through some of my Yelp reviews, and I realized, there were times where I was really upset at an experience at a restaurant, and I wrote about it on Yelp, and I had no intention of ever going back to that restaurant ever again. And in some cases, the restaurants would write me back and say, hey, we're sorry you had that experience. If you come back, I'll take care of you. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're going to come back, you'll spit in my food, and take me out back and beat me up. I'm not falling for that. And they may have been very sincere, like, hey, we really appreciate this feedback. We didn't know our employees were doing that, or the food wasn't prepared properly. That's not according to our standard. Like I went to one business, I drove for a half an hour to get there, and it was closed. I look at the sign, and I'm there during business hours. It says these are our hours, but there's nobody there. The whole place is locked up. I was reasonably upset. That was the only reason I went down there. So I left a review about it. The owner of the company said his employee was supposed to be there, and he didn't know he wasn't there. Well, that's just bad ownership. Like if you need your customers to tell you what's happening at your business, that's just bad ownership. But whether or not you write a bad review, it's going to happen. It's going to go out of business anyway, because people just are going to go regardless of your bad review. So I have all these reviews on Yelp, and there's a lot of negativity in some of the reviews. And I decided I don't think it's fair to leave a negative review for a place that I ate at 4 years ago. For that one-time experience to be a permanent stain on that restaurant for an indefinite period of time. I think Yelp needs to put a time period on it, say 6 months, 12 months, if it's a negative review or even a positive review, because it goes to show what's going on today. I don't care what was going on 2 or 3 years ago, or even last year. A lot can change. And in this case, many of the one-star reviews, I'd say 7 out of 10 of the one-star reviews I left, those companies were all closed and gone. So I don't even know why those reviews were still up for companies that are closed and out of business. And it shows that it wasn't because of my review they went out of business. It's because they had problems they couldn't resolve, and it was managed poorly. Otherwise, they'd still be in business. So I think Yelp needs to revisit this idea that reviews should be with you for life. I don't think that's fair. We all have bad days. And the same token, the good reviews shouldn't be with you for life either. The only thing that should matter are recent reviews. And I think that's an important thing to consider. Someone's mentioning about smoking being cancerous. So again, if we continue on that path, you worry about you and I'll worry about me. I've known plenty of people who smoked well into their 90s and did not die of lung cancer. I've known plenty of smokers who died from lots of other things that had nothing to do with smoking. This idea that if you smoke, you get cancer is not true. You're likely to. You're very likely to. But it requires that you smoke for a long enough period of time, that your body chemistry is such that you're more susceptible to it, say, than somebody else. And further, that something else doesn't kill you before that, be it diabetes, heart attack, stroke. Smoking can have to do with that as well. Everybody seems fixated on one thing. So there is a narcissism to it. There's this narcissism that you're going to live longer if you do this behavior, but that's assuming they're not doing other things that you don't know about. Like, well, I quit smoking, but that black tar heroin, man, that's good stuff. I'm never going to stop that. You don't know that. That's not something that people openly discuss generally. So advising people based on your experience isn't really helpful to them. If you don't understand their lifestyle, you could be very healthy in your diet, but you don't get up and move around. Doesn't mean that you're going to automatically lose weight just because you eat vegetables. You might eat 10 times more vegetables than you should, and you can still get fat. And if you're sedentary, if you don't move around, there's so many variables and factors. It just comes right back to what I talked about earlier, which is until you get to know somebody better, it is foolish to think that anything you can offer them will be helpful for them, in the sense of what computer parts should I buy, in the sense of what should I order off the menu, what haircut should I get, what tattoo should I have put on. These are all personal decisions that people need to take accountability and responsibility for. And people need to realize that your opinion overall, unless you're getting paid for it, is generally not welcome. Generally. A lot of what I'm saying right now is falling on ears that don't want to hear what I'm saying. So it just proves my point. If I had the ability to prevent that from occurring, I would. But all I can do is make you aware of it. Since I can't stop you from doing it, I can at least warn you that when someone's doing it to you, that you recognize it, or that you don't put yourself in that position where you're letting somebody tell you what's good for you, what's best for you, when they don't even know who you are. Maybe your siblings or your mother or somebody who knows you, your parents, maybe somebody like that can do it, but some stranger on the internet simply cannot tell you what's good for you. They can say what's generally good for human beings, but they don't know what's good for you. We're all different. So we should be celebrating that, not punishing it. I know people that have got lung cancer never smoked a day in their lives. So it's not something that's so easily remedied. If you don't smoke, you won't get it. And if you do smoke, you will. The world is much more complicated than that. All right. So I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm asking you not to tell other people what to believe. That's the difference. One of the shows I like to watch on YouTube is Joe Rogan's talk show. I think Joe Rogan, he's an interesting guy. There's a part of him, there's a side of him I don't care for, and then there's a bigger side of him that I really like. And he had Dan Aykroyd on the show not too long ago. And Dan Aykroyd makes a vodka called Crystal Head Vodka. And I remember the first time I saw it, 4, 5, 6 years ago. No, it was longer than that. Might have been 10 years ago. And I thought, what a cool bottle. I bet the vodka tastes like crap because, it's like the fancier the cologne bottle is, the worse it smells. They make up for it in marketing with the bottle. Boy, was I surprised. The vodka is absolutely one of the smoothest, best vodkas I ever had, or to this day. I'm not a big drinker. But I do enjoy a drink on occasion. And they've got so Dan Aykroyd was there talking about how they filter the vodka, what it's made from. And I made me want to go buy another bottle because it's been a long time since I've had it. And so I was at the store earlier, and I thought, it's Halloween, how appropriate. So the Crystal Skull, or the Crystal Head vodka is just that. It's a see-through glass. But now they've got a bone white skull. And I thought, well, that's nice for Halloween. But what's great about it is what's in it. Forget the bottle. What's in this bottle is one of the best vodkas I have ever had. It has, I think they make it from peaches and another fruit, I think. And they have another one where there's like a weird rainbow effect on the glass. That's made from wheat, which is a more traditional vodka. But this is the one I really like. This is supposed to be the same product as the clear bottle. And they were talking about how it's filtered through diamonds. They're not real diamonds, but it's filtered through quartz crystals, essentially. Triple filtered, and it just stands really well on its own. So if you're an aficionado of vodka, it's worth checking out. It's worth trying. You might not like it. That's why it's worth trying. So you can figure it out on your own. There's a theme throughout today's show. John Stellick has contributed $5. My sister says I can have as much salt as I want. She doesn't know too much salt makes my feet swell up. We have different physiology. Yeah, and your diet plays a big role in that too. If you have a diet that's very low in sodium and high in other things, your body may crave sodium for that reason. There are plenty of animals that eat salt. They have salt licks for a reason. Granted, those animals don't live to be 90, but the point is there's not one solution for everybody. In general, they'll say eat healthy and exercise. And that is a general rule, but that doesn't change any predisposition genetically to any diseases. Or just poor decision making, being somewhere you shouldn't be or doing something you shouldn't be doing with people you shouldn't be around that ends up causing you injury or fatality. Along with environmental effects, where you live. A lot of people that live under power lines believe that causes cancer. People believe having the cell phone on you at all times, the microwave radiation, radiation coming off a television set. So there's plenty of ways that you can justify any behavior which you wish to exercise. I think it's important that you're happy and you're not causing harm to anybody else. And as long as you're happy and you're not causing harm to anybody else, all power to you. David Kane says, there's $5. Thank you, David. Good evening, Carey. It's been a long day. Time to relax, watch some good content, and have a Coke on me. Well, thank you. Hey, thanks for supporting the channel. And Marty's contributed $5. Thank you, Marty. See some folks are talking with Acronis. Take advantage of that. When Acronis pops in the chat room, if you guys have any questions about Acronis, that is why they're here. They're here to answer any questions you've got. Carey, what about the magnets in the computer case? So so we're back to this computer. I asked the customer about that. I said, there's nothing. So I'm walking a fine line with the customer. I don't want to suggest that they screwed it up. And I don't want to suggest that anything I saw is reason for the behavior the computer is exhibiting, because it's not. But I did want to understand why the magnets were there. And I said to the customer, I said, look, one of these magnets, we've got the magnets right here, just one of these is strong enough I mean, I'm having a hard time even separating them. Just one of those magnets is strong enough that if you just wanted to hold a screw somewhere, that's all you needed. You didn't need to make it 5 times thicker and really increase the... When the magnet gets too strong, it can create problems. And furthermore, if this were to break off in shipping, because he shipped it with this in here with a screw attached to it, if the screw, if the computer was dropped, and clearly it was dropped by, at the very least by the shipper, then these pieces are potentially floating around and sticking on things where you don't necessarily want them sticking on, like a mechanical drive. Now, there was no mechanical drive in here, but the last thing I would want to see happen is I would hate for this to break off, or for the screw that was being held magnetically to start bouncing around inside of this case, scratching up the board. That would not be good. It could break traces on the board, all because what? Now, we're talking about somebody who is disabled. We're talking about somebody who admittedly removed 2 screws from each side panel and then immediately lost the screws. So if that person is self-aware that they lose screws that are this big within moments of removing them, their answer to that may be, I'll put some magnets and I'll attach the screws to magnets. That to me is overthinking it. What I would recommend you do, if you're somebody who has a habit of misplacing things, or maybe you live in an environment where you've got a lot of stuff and there's no free space, and so it's easy for, you're just pushing out things out of your way to make room for the next thing. I'm not going to tell you to clean up your work area. That's how you want to work. But just get a glass or a coffee mug and just start dropping the screws in that. Don't use magnets. Just get I was going to say an ashtray. Nobody's got ashtrays anymore. Just get a glass, a cup, a mug, a bowl, piece of Tupperware, a Ziploc bag, stuff laying all over your house that will contain all the screws. This is a bad idea. This is a bad habit. There's nothing good to come from this. Is this hurting anything? No, not yet. But there is potential. So why have that potential when you could just as easily just use a bowl? You don't have to get anything special. Use a coffee mug. Use a cup from a fast food store. Empty it out, wipe it out with a paper towel, drop the parts in there. It's much, much safer. The customer doing this didn't cause any harm. The screw was still attached to it magnetically, even though the computer was dropped several times. That's how strong these magnets are. So, it's the customer's computer, and they can do whatever they want. And like I said, this isn't hurting anything, but there's a potential. And I'm not going to ship this back to this customer with this in the computer, because then it becomes my accountability. I also wouldn't ship this back to the customer without insurance. So that's what happened there. I'm just looking in the chat room for other questions I can answer today, and Madi's contributed again. Again, thank you, Madi. Carey, do you still use Asus motherboards? I prefer Gigabyte. I don't really care for the 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 nature in which Asus talks to its customers. It's as if everybody who buys Asus is an enthusiast gamer, and that's what they design around. And when you try to talk to, when I try to talk to the representatives at Asus to ask them why they don't have other considerations, they say they're just following what they're hearing in the support forums to answer the needs of their customers. The problem is most of their customers don't participate in any forum of any kind. So the enthusiasts that are demanding these extreme niche-y solutions, Asus is falsely thinking are the majority of their customers, and therefore the only ones who matter. Because of that attitude, I'm not a big fan of Asus. They make a quality product. I don't like the way that they support it, and I don't like their "we can do no wrong" attitude. And this, instead of listening to my suggestion, they go, well, this is what you should want. This is what everybody else wants. And that's simply not true. It's not what everybody else wants, because I'm somebody else and it's not what I want. That being said, I like Gigabyte the most, but that's because I've had very good experience with them and I don't get that attitude from them. And the board I just ordered is from ASRock. I was looking at some MSI motherboards just to mix it up a little bit, but none of the MSI boards had any heat shields for the M.2 drives. When I was looking at the Xen 390 boards last night, I really wanted to buy an MSI board because I really liked that MSI board that I worked with last year with the Carbon Pro, but it was very expensive. But all the MSI boards, all the M2 slots are bare. There's no built-in heatsink, which I think looks awful, you know, especially if you're working with a case that has a window on it, which, you know, I could resolve by getting like an ADATA RGB SSD, which has a built-on heatsink, or other SSD M.2 drives that have built-on heatsinks, but they don't match the design of the board. You know, when it comes from the board manufacturer, it's seamless. It just looks better. So, you know, Gigabyte's got that on their higher end boards. Asus has it on the higher end boards, and ASRock has it on some of their boards. ASRock's got one that looks like it's got little cogs. It's all steampunky, but it's just paint, and they want to charge a premium for that, which I think is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The fact that people are willing to pay for it blows my mind. All they did was paint the motherboard. They made it look like if the gears turned, if all the cogs turned, that would be cool. But no, they don't turn. It's just a paint job. It's a sticker. So people pay more for the Go Faster stickers, I guess. That being said, I ordered an ASRock board. It's a Z390 Gaming 7. And Amazon didn't even have it. They had like the Gaming 6 and the Gaming 10, the Gaming 9, but they didn't have the Gaming 7. And the Gaming 7 had the RGB lights and the heatsink covers for the M.2 SSDs, because this is all going to go into that case, which I believe has a case window. If it doesn't, oops, but that's okay. It'll eventually be used to where there's a case window. I think if you're a technical, nerdy, kind of granular, get into all the nitty-gritty stuff, then I think you'll like Asus. I think if you're an average, ordinary person wanting to build a computer, you will find Asus to be confusing and a bit maddening, especially the way they do their BIOS and in the way that they label RAM sockets and things like that. It goes beyond normal human comprehension. It's very much designed by engineers for those who have an engineering type of logic set in your head. Then if you were of that nature, you're going to be like, Asus is the best. It's the best for you. Not the best for me. It's certainly not the best for the majority of my clients. I do think the Asus boards are built of an equal quality to Gigabyte. I don't think one is better than the other, but I think Gigabyte boards are more end user friendly with how the documentation, the labeling, and the BIOS is laid out. It's less, I don't even know if I want to say granular. It's the phrasing that Asus uses is often very confusing. Like Asus will say, so Asus will have 4 RAM sockets, and they'll be labeled A1, B1, A2, B2. And you think, well, I must have to use A1 and A2 first, right? No. So I use B1 and B2 first? No. So I use A1 and B1 first? Yes. Wait, what? Well, to an engineer, that makes sense. They're 2 separate channels, and you want to operate in dual channel mode. Yeah, but we're working together, right? So if we're working together, shouldn't you just label it 1, 3, 2, 4, and then say, put the RAM in 1 and 2 first? Why you got to put A and B in front of it? Well, because there's 2 channels. Yeah, but there's 4 slots, right? So there's A1 and B1, 2 channels, and then A2 and B2 are 2 channels. So then that's 4 channels, right? So then 1, 3, 2, 4, use 1 and 2 first. No, you're not getting it. No, I'm getting it just fine. You're a nerd. You don't understand how regular people think. You have a mindset that is so logical, knowing the circuitry and the traces on the board and the technical aspect of what's happening, that you can no longer speak like a regular person who doesn't have that information. You can only speak in a way that says, well, from the inside looking out. Nobody's on the inside looking out but an engineer or a really nerdy person who's into that. Well, that's who we make our products for. Fine. So that's why I'm not a fan of Asus, because I don't want to be that guy, and I don't want to do that to my customers. And by the way, only motherboard manufacturer I know that does that. Nobody else comes close to this whole bizarre. Shouldn't it be A1 and A2 and then B1 and B2? Well, no, because A is both channels are on the same on A and both channels are on the same on B, and you want 1 channel from each. Why do I care? What are you trying to turn me into an engineer? Just tell me which damn sockets to use. I got 2 memory modules. Where do they go? A1 and B1. That doesn't make sense. Well, technically it makes sense. If you just study engineering for 4 years, you'll totally get it. So they're not building motherboards for people like me or my customers. Doesn't mean they have bad products. It can just be really frustrating to interpret their directions. It's like they wrote the directions for themselves. It's not too helpful. If you already know how to do it, what do you need directions for? I'm looking for any other technical questions. When I was looking at what CPU to buy, I'm disappointed that there's not many more options available today than there were 6 months ago. Initially, I was going to stick with an 8700K, and then I realized I'm not doing any overclocking. And the power consumption and heat on that are pretty high compared to a 9900. The 9900K was out of stock, and Amazon had it supposedly, but it would take 2 to 3 weeks to ship it, so I'm not sure that they had it. So I said, you know what? There's a minor price difference. There's a minor clock speed difference. I think it's 3.1 gig is the default on the 9900. It comes with a heat sink supposedly, but I'm not going to use it. And they both turbo up to 5 gigahertz, both the 9900 and the 9900K turbo to the same speed. So the 9900 is more of a creator's chipset. It's not really a chip. It's not really a gamer's chip. It's really for creators, the people who make the games, or somebody, I don't know, who's got a YouTube channel and is making content. So that may end up becoming the new streaming computer rather than the Nuka-Cola, because of the weight of the Nuka-Cola. Until I have a studio, I have to keep moving equipment in and out. So if there's something a bit lighter I can get, that I can still fit the cards, the capture cards that I need, then that'll be the direction I go. And the 9900 should give me plenty of headroom for content creation. Carey, what would be an easy to build in case for a 2700X build? Well, again, what's easy for you, I don't know. And what parts you're buying, I don't know. But in general, I like to use the Corsair 200R. The rumor is that the 200R has been discontinued, but they're still available online. They're around $75. I suppose once existing inventory runs out, it just won't be replenished anymore, but they're easy to find, and it's a very plain looking case. If you're looking for a case that has RGB lighting and glass windows and things like that, I've been very happy with NZXT. I've been happy with Be Quiet. I have been happy with many of the higher end Silverstone and Leon Lee cases. There's a lot to choose from. So I would suggest, look at your budget, look at some reviews to cases that look aesthetically pleasing to you, that are within your budget, and see the reviews on those cases to determine if that looks easy for you or not. Can you format an M2 drive through a system BIOS? A system BIOS is not an operating system. An operating system needs to be able to read and write files in a language that it can understand. So how Apple reads and writes their data, or how your phone reads and writes its data, or how Linux reads and writes its data, it's all referring to a file system. The file system is a part of the operating system. The BIOS is there to communicate with the operating system on how to communicate with the hardware. Whether your operating system is Linux, whether your operating system is Mac. Mac now uses all the same, not all the same, but the components on a modern Apple computer are just PC components. They're just limited in scope to which components versus a PC. You have lots of options, countless options and variables. So all of that has to be done through the operating system. And then even within the operating system, you may have different choices of format. For example, if you plug a USB drive into your Windows machine and you want to format it, you may have a choice of formatting in FAT16, FAT32, NTFS, or exFAT. That's just for Windows. Then if you move it to Mac or Linux, then you have HFS and all these other file systems. You'll see the word FS a lot. That's short for file system, like NTFS, New Technology File System. So the BIOS can't assume what your operating system is. If anybody could do it, maybe Apple could, because Apple can say, you're running our operating system on our computer and you can never change it because we locked you in whether you like it or not. In theory, Apple could do that, but Microsoft, Windows, or Linux offer the end user the option to pick what's right for them and not to assume it. There's no right format for a specific device. It's decided by the operating system. And the BIOS will let you install a Hackintosh or a Linux. The BIOS doesn't care. Put whatever you want on there. Island Wind Mountain Town says, it's getting too late. Cheers from Norway. Carey, gonna watch tomorrow. Right on. Well, thanks for joining us all the way from Norway. I feel a sneeze coming on. It's coming. There it is. All right. Does that computer boot fine now without going into the BIOS to choose the drive? Of course. There seems to be a lot of confusion from people with regards to BIOS choosing a drive. When the BIOS is set to its default settings, if you return the BIOS back to the way the manufacturer of the board set it up, it will boot to whatever boot device it can find going through a series of an order that the manufacturer has defined. When the end user gets in there and starts toying around with it because of videos they saw on YouTube or articles they read online, this could speed up your boot process by half a millisecond if you just get rid of all of these other devices, disable them in your BIOS. And then something like this happens and you're like, how come my machine won't boot? But because you changed it. That's why it's not working. Because in most cases, you changed it from the manufacturer's default setting. So if you put it back the way it was, which is you can go into your BIOS and select default, reset it to default settings, or even optimized settings, and leave it alone. Don't change anything else. And then you'll see it probably works. And then when you go in the future to modify things in your BIOS, understand the consequences that come with doing that. I have never seen a computer not boot by default to an M.2 drive ever in my life. I've just never seen it. If the BIOS is set correctly, that won't happen. So let me rephrase. I've never seen a computer that won't boot to an M.2 drive without first having to tell the BIOS to do it. If the only time I would ever have to do that, I only have to do it once. And that's because the end user has changed it. I don't have to ever change it from manufacturer settings certainly on any of the Gigabyte boards. I can't speak for other manufacturers necessarily, but on all the Asus and Gigabyte boards, that is set by default. They don't want tech support calls. Of course, they're going to set it to boot from anything it can find. You or somebody you know has changed that default setting. That's it. If you put it back the way it was, if you'd have left it alone, you wouldn't be having these problems. I keep telling people, leave it alone. If you keep picking at it, it's not going to heal. Michael Martin's contributed £5. He says, hey, Carey, good to see you again. See you're just enjoying your Coke. I'll buy you a portion of fish and chips when you visit the UK. My heart is pounding. You know, you found your way into my heart. British fish and chips. One day I will actually try it. We've got a couple of British pubs, and that's about as close as I can get. What was your initial thought about RGB? Did you suspect it would have taken off like it did? Yeah, of course. Yeah, like if you ask me, are most people financially smart and make decisions based on logic or emotion? I would say most people are not financially smart and make more decisions based on emotion than on logic. RGB doesn't add any value really to the computer. It doesn't make it any more reliable. It doesn't make it any faster. It doesn't make you a better gamer. I have a lot more respect for the person who's got a hand-me-down computer who can spank you in whatever their game is, if it's Fortnite or Call of Duty, and you're there with this fancy rig that you just built and just sunk several $1,000s into, and it's jaw-droppingly beautiful, but you can't game to save your life. Figuratively and literally. I think it's like buying a really fancy piano when you don't know how to play piano. It's like buying really fancy pots and pans, but you don't know how to cook. It just doesn't make you a better cook. It's like buying a really expensive camera. You're not taking any better photos. Nobody really cares. When you look at a picture, do you go, oh, I wonder what camera that was shot with? Or do you think, wow, that guy takes really good pictures? When you hear someone play a piano and they're really good, do you go, ooh, wonder what brand of piano is that? Is that a Yamaha? Who does that? If you are playing against somebody who is whipping your butt in the video game, do you think, oh, they've got a better rig than me? Chances are they don't. Chances are they're just a better gamer than you. And no amount of money you can spend on your hardware is going to make you a better gamer. Done. You know, wow, this is a really good dinner you made, Carey. You must have really nice pots and pans. What brand are they? I want to buy some of those so I can make dinner like this. You hear yourselves, right? So, am I surprised about RGB being as popular? No. Am I disappointed? Profoundly. That there's that many sheep. There's that many sheep. They're everywhere. And they see it, they decide, I want that too. And the manufacturers, they love it. The profit margin on this stuff is so outrageous. If you guys knew how much you were overpaying for this stuff, I think you'd be offended. When you find out how competitive the rest of the industry is, like there's not a lot of profit to be made off a motherboard. That's a pretty critical component in your build. Certainly can affect your gameplay. But when you find out what it costs to add RGB lighting and how much they profit on top of that, I think you'd be quite offended. But it's your money. If that's what's important to you, don't let me get in your way. Marty's contributed $2. He says, not everyone's into gaming. Yeah, that's true too. Bill Bowers contributed $5. He says, hey, Carey, always enjoy your videos, though it keeps me from getting work done around the house. I've heard this before. Thank you, though. Thank you for supporting the channel. Of course, to Marty as well. Marty's very generous today. Thank you for that. Carey, have you considered streaming on Twitch? I've been streaming on Twitch for about 3 or 4 years, and I just haven't in a long time because Twitch kept changing, and they continue to change what's required to become an affiliate, and the amount they pay is pathetic, and they want you to basically stream 30 hours a day, 8 days a week, and then in exchange they'll give you a fresh nickel. So I'm not interested in Twitch. It seems like a platform for gamers, not for builders or people who want to learn. It just seems to be, it seems to be for a certain group of people that I do not consider myself a part of that group. So I don't really feel like I belong there, and Twitch has not made me any offer to incentivize me to go back. But the channel is still there, I'm just not active on it. Twitch has made a lot of money for me and has paid me $0. And I'm done with them. I'm tired of being used. David's contributed $2. He says, as I'm legally blind, RGB is irrelevant to me. Yeah, there's that. Randy Hopkins contributed $2 and says, Chrome, don't get home. I don't know what that means, but thank you for, for the contribution to the channel. I'm just looking through the chat for any questions I may have missed here, any technical questions. A lot of people are making some very bold statements with regards to product longevity, reliability, or cooling, and I would suggest that all of you don't accept anything you're seeing there in the chat room as 100% factual. That people are, again, going back to this, I guess it's like a disease or it's a habit of sort of throwing a blanket over something and saying it's always this, always, all the time. This is always better, this is always always an improvement, and they're not correct. For them, it may have improved their situation, but it may not improve it for yours. And it does come with consequences, which they conveniently don't talk about. So when you get information from the internet, including the information even that I'm passing to you now, I encourage you to verify that information from a third-party source that you choose, and then decide how you want to proceed based on that. I'll tell you, one of my viewers, his name's George, and he's in, I guess he works in Parliament in the UK. He sent me some chocolates the other day. And I've been sort of munching on these things, and they're so good. And George sent me this Big Ben ornament, and he said this is chocolate. That is, it says it's a choking hazard, and it's decoration only. So I think George thought he sent me, I think George thought when he bought this it was made of chocolate. It's clearly a Christmas ornament, and if I drop it, it'll break just like a Christmas ornament. It's pretty darn cool though, but I'm not eating it. Okay. But what I really like is he sent me these, like House of Commons, I think, these milk chocolates. Oh, House of Lords. And I kind of jokingly said, you know, they're from, maybe not these, but one of them that he sent was Belgian chocolate. Like, wouldn't it be British chocolate if you're at Parliament? And anyway, so George wrote me this really nice email explaining the houses, the House of Lords, the House of Commons, how it's related to the American system of government with the Senate and Congress. And anyway, it's all sort of over my head. I don't know. And how Belgian chocolate is considered to be luxurious. Even in England, it's considered, I would just think there would have been country pride involved. Ours is always the best, I don't care. So I just found that to be amusing. But I will agree that whatever it is, it's delicious. And this is exactly the kind of chocolate I like. This is thin, doesn't have nothing's added to it. It's not dark chocolate. It's not got raisins or anything in there. It's just a plain old piece of good old white chocolate. And it's not an inch thick where it's going to break your tooth to bite into it. This is apparently served in the dining room for distinguished guests. Which really, this is my favorite. My favorite. That was the best. And it's just enough, you know, the size of it. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's exactly the right amount, and I'm good. Like, I'm good for the rest of the day. I don't have a very strong sweet tooth, so that's all I need. Michael says 8K TVs are out. Oh, yeah, 8K TVs have been out for about a year. There's no content in Phoenix from the cable company over 1080. I was at Best Buy about 3 or 4 years ago. It was about 3 years ago. And it felt like they were really phasing out the 1080 TVs for the 4K TVs. There were only a handful of 1080s, and the rest were all 4K. And they always have the store demo running, and the picture always looks amazing. And I said to the guy working at Best Buy, I said, if I buy this 4K TV, what channels on my Cox cable box can I watch something in 4K? Oh no, Cox doesn't have 4K. I go, okay, but I have Cox Communications. I don't really have any choice. I guess I could go to DirecTV, but I don't want to change my TV service and lose my internet service just so I can watch TV at 4K. Well, you know, Netflix will broadcast in 4K. YouTube's got some 4K. Yeah, but it compresses the heck out of it. It compresses it so much that, well, you've got 4 times the content. So 4K is 4 times 1080, right? 1080 times 4 is 4,000. What does it work out to? 4,000. I'm not good at the math right now. It's 4 times the bandwidth of 1080. There's 4 times the amount of data, 4 times the number of pixels going horizontally, 4 times the number of pixels going vertically. So it'd be like if you had 4 HD TVs and you put a quarter of the screen in each corner. That's a lot of data to shove through an internet pipe. So how do they do that? They compress the crap out of it. What does that mean? It means that for most of us, unless you have ultra high bandwidth and Netflix servers are able to support, you know, in a non-busy time, the transfer of that much data, maybe you'll see the benefit of it besides size. For the most part, people are getting size, but you're not getting clarity. And they're mixing these two things up. So now, you know, the 8K TVs have come out. And I'm like, well, we still haven't really taken advantage of the 4K TVs unless you have, at least here in Phoenix, unless you have satellite TV or you're willing to compress the crap out of it, which, by the way, Cox Cable does too. They compress the crap out of the HD signal. And, you know, when you watch an HD program like football on a local station, the local station being picked up by antenna is a much better picture because Cox is compressing the crap out of it. So now what are we going to do with an 8K TV? We haven't even taken advantage of the 4K TVs yet. Now what do we do? So with 8K, it's like 4 times the amount of data from 4K, right? We're not doubling. You might go, well, 8's twice as much as 4. It's 4 times more. 4 times, I believe it's 4 times more than 4, which is 4 times more than 1. So we go from 1080 to 43, was it 3840? And then 8K bumps that to, what does 8K bump it to? It ends up being, you know, you have all of these, the pixels get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that's supposed to result in a clearer picture. But often what it really results in is a bigger picture. I don't know that bigger is equaling clarity. If I take a photograph and I blow that photograph up and print it out this big, and then you stand away from it, you might say that looks clearer to you. If I make it smaller, and here's the thing that's weird to me, a lot of people, a lot of the current generation are so connected to their phones. They're watching TV shows and movies on their phones. And the phones may promote an ultra high definition display on a screen that's, you know, whatever that is, 8 inches. Your eye can't really see that. It's just too small. It's too small of a screen. You'd have to blow that up to really get any advantage. Furthermore, the sound quality is often not very good. So for me, you know, look, I'm a guy from the, you know, I was a teenager in the 80s, so I want a big screen. I want a great, loud, powerful, separated stereo sound system. Doesn't have to be surround sound, but it needs to be, when the bass hits, I want to feel it. And when something moves left to right or right to left, I want to hear it move. And I want my picture quality to be clear, sharp. I want to see the details. And 1080 in stereo sound does that for me. We get into Dolby Atmos, or we get into surround, or we get into Dolby Theater sound, the DTS. When we get into things beyond 1080, we go 1080p versus 1080i to 4K to 8K. I don't see it. I simply don't see it. So I end up having 2 4K TVs that have never really seen 4K content apart from the compressed crap that comes from Netflix or YouTube. And I look at it and I go, okay, that's the 4K, and then look at the 1080, can't see it. But that's just me. Those are my eyes, and my point of reference is a 4:3 TV in standard definition. So I'm very happy with HD. Now, when perhaps more 8K content is available, I might change my mind. I'm just not seeing it. And what am I going to do? Just run the manufacturer's demo all day? That won't get old. You know, I tried broadcasting 4K from here, and my internet just not handling it. And then what I had to do to make 4K happen, reduce the overall picture quality. Made the picture bigger, but I do believe that it's better to broadcast at regular 1080 and then boost the bit rate up. I think overall it's a much better picture. Now, if I had gigabit up and down, gigabit internet up and down, that'd be a different story. That's not offered to me. It's not even an option for me. Ascendant said 8K is 7680 by 4320, which is, so it's 8 times more than 1080, which is twice as much than 4K, and 4K is 4 times more than 1080. I think I got the math on this right now. Thank you for providing the information, guys. It's a lot of data, ultimately. You need a lot of bandwidth to move that much data. So I guess 16K will be next. Tom McDonald's contributed $5. Hey, thanks, Tom. Thanks for supporting the channel. And David Keynes contributed $2. He says, just curious, what type of keyboard do you prefer? The keyboard I've been liking lately is a refurbished Corsair keyboard. I will not buy a brand new Corsair keyboard because I think they are grossly overpriced and horribly supported. Corsair has always done a great job with supporting me when I have problems with RAM or a case or what else? Coolers. But when it comes to keyboards, their support is pretty much non-existent. But I do like the keyboard. The K55 keyboard from Corsair is my keyboard of choice right now, and I like it so much I bought 3 of them so that when they break, I instantly am able to replace it. And you can pick them up refurbished for right around $35 or $40. which I think is a very fair price for that keyboard. And if the keyboard breaks, I'll throw it away. I don't care. I got really burned by Corsair when I dropped $125 on a keyboard. They had a firmware update for it, and it was out of warranty, and I don't know what the firmware update did, but you know me, I want to put the latest firmware on stuff, and it bricked it. And when I called Corsair, they said, well, too bad. I mean, it's not exactly what they said, but they might as well have. They said, you're out of warranty. I said, that's fine, I'll pay for the repair. You know, send me a firmware chip, let me swap it out. No, that's not an option. Well, let me send it to you and you do it. Maybe you've got a machine you can plug it into and you can reflash it because it's perfectly fine. Nothing's broken with it. No, we don't do that. So what am I supposed to do with it? Not our problem. It's out of warranty, you're done. So you think I want to buy another one? No. But gosh darn it, I like how the keyboard feels. So I'm willing to spend 35 or 40 bucks and throw it away when it breaks like any other keyboard. But I won't spend over $100 and be treated like that. I expect that I should be able to pay some money. I'm sure they've got a tool that they can plug it into and reflash it. That's all it needed. And they're either unwilling or unable, or they have a policy against it, or they just want to sell you more keyboards. So I think it's the K55 from Corsair. I think you can find them on Amazon for $35 or $40 refurbished. And that's just a keyboard in a box. You don't get anything else. It's, you know, it's not retail packaging. It's just a blank box with a keyboard that looks like brand new, works like brand new, and has a USB cable that plugs the keyboard into the computer and the keyboard, and that's it. No software, no documentation, nothing. And it's the way I like it. Less for the landfill. Nicholas Gibson's contributed $5 to the channel. He says, keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Nicholas, and thank you for being part of this great community. Let's make him a moderator. When I was at the Fontainebleau Hotel for Acronis, it was interesting that the hotel has these little screens, and they can put them into so the wall is designed to hold these screens, and they can make it bigger or smaller depending on how many screens they want to put in, and that it all becomes one monitor. And so instead of having projectors, the hotel crew would come into the big ballroom, and they just start putting these little screens together. They're about this big, and they would put them together in whatever size they needed, so that when the CEO of Acronis was on stage, let's say, on the left and the right, where there would normally be projectors, these were actual large custom-made screens just for that event. And even the lighting in the ballroom was RGB, and they could change it to match Acronis's colors, corporate colors. Then it's like they had to change any bulbs. They just had to program it in, and the lights go to that exact hue of the corporate colors. That's pretty cool stuff, man. Because I was looking at the screens, I'm like, man, they got those projectors perfect. Like, they're not tilted. They go right to the edge, top to bottom, side by side. Then I realized that's a screen. And that screen wasn't there the day before. There was no screen on the side of that stage. So the screen comes apart in little screens, and they all somehow just connect together, and they can make it as big or as little as they want. It's pretty cool stuff. Max Payne has contributed £1. Hey, thank you, Max. Thanks for supporting the channel. Brian wants to know how the Subaru is doing. Are you happy with it? Very happy with the reliability of the Subaru. The part about the Subaru I don't like is it's not a looker. There's nothing special about it. It's very generic looking inside and out. The interior, as far as I'm concerned, is a rental car quality interior. That being said, it's not uncomfortable. It is reliable. It's easy to work on. And I don't really have any complaints. I just wish it was sexier, and I wish that the interior was more like a BMW or more like a European car, less like a Japanese car. The Japanese interiors and the American interiors, quite often they're just hard plasticky surfaces and bare. Subarus are like that. My Ford's got a nice interior, If you compare the interior of a Mustang with the interior of a Camaro or the interior of a Dodge Challenger, the Mustang's got a much softer material along the door panels, along the dash. It's kind of squishy, just like a BMW, just like a Mercedes. It's very, very similar, the Mustang that I have, very similar to the BMW I had, 3 Series. I guess some people don't care about stuff like that. Europeans do. That much is clear. My Mini Cooper also had a pretty nice mixture of soft and hard surfaces. It wasn't just hard surface. The Camaro's all hard surfaces. The Challenger's all hard surfaces. The Subaru is all hard surfaces. There's nothing soft about it. So that bothers me. It feels rental car-ish. That's a word, car-ish. But the Subaru, Subaru Mike rebuilt that car. So I have no doubt that regardless of the quality that it was built with, Mike built it to his quality. And that's how I know it's good. Cadillac SRX is better. A Cadillac SRS is what, $70,000? $60,000? The Subaru is 30? What is your preferred SUV? I really like that GMC Terrain. Really like the looks of it. But I've had such a bad experience with reliability with GMC, I'm not quite sure I'll ever buy another GMC product or a GM product, whether that's Chevy or I'm just kind of done with them. I'm not happy with the squeaks and rattles that seems to come with every GM car over time. It's been my experience. I was warned about it. I chose to say, well, that's fine for you, but then that may be for me. No, it applied to me as well. So I put a lot of money into that Chevy Blazer, a lot of money. And almost immediately it had problems right from on the original owner, had a leaking water pump within the first 8 months. That should have been my warning to get rid of it. The 2013 Ford Mustang I have has never needed a repair, ever. It's needed battery, it's needed tires and oil changes and filters. It's never had a leak that needed to be repaired. It doesn't leak. It's never stalled. It just, damn thing just keeps working. So it's got 54,000 miles on it. It's 6 years old, more than 6 years old, going on 7 years old. It has never needed a repair. So I'm not looking to trade it in or get rid of it anytime soon. When it starts needing repairs, what do you think I'm going to look at next? I give you a clue. It's made by Ford. I'll be happy to look at anything made by Ford, but I'll be definitely looking at another Mustang. I am very, very happy. So was I lucky and I just got a good one? Or are they all built like that? I don't know. Was I unlucky and just got a bad Blazer? Was I unlucky and just got a bad Hyundai? Hyundai customer service was so bad, I don't even want to know. Chevy's customer service was so bad, I don't even want to know. Ford, can't say they had particularly good customer service either, but haven't needed it. Oh, your Hyundai has a 10-year warranty and your Mustang only has a 3-year warranty. Yeah, and the Hyundai was in the shop 800 times and the Mustang's been in the shop 0 times. So I'll take the 3-year warranty. The reason you got your 10-year warranty on your Hyundai is because you need to have one. That's how I feel about that. But that's, again, based on my experience with Hyundai. Never own another Hyundai. Never, 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 never. Nope. I would rather just cut off a toe and put myself through that again. Louis 67's contributed $2 Canadian. He says, here's a Coke on me for tomorrow's bill. Right on. Thank you. I'm not particularly brand loyal to any car manufacturer. I've owned Volkswagen. I've had a Mustang in the past. I've had a Camaro in the past. I've had AMC. I have had Datsun, Nissan, Toyota, BMW, Mini. The Mini was a great car to drive. Just like the BMW was a great car to drive. Terrible car to own because of the maintenance issues and the expense. So, and that requires the premium gas, which really is frustrating. I can just put regular unleaded gas in my car and go. I don't have to pay extra or lose horsepower. Trying to think what other cars I've owned in time. Honda. Honda was good, but again, interiors are just kind of blah. Very reliable cars, good gas mileage, basic gas. Not fun cars. Honda used to make fun cars. I don't think they make a fun car anymore. I think they do in England. I think they still have like the Type R, stuff like that, but I don't think we get those here. I haven't owned a Mazda yet. There's quite a few brands I haven't owned. I've not owned Mitsubishi or Jaguar or Maserati. You can get a Maserati cheap. A used one, those things plummet in value. But the repair costs are still they're going to eat me alive on repair costs, so not too excited about that. Troll McTrollington has contributed $20 Canadian. He says, I haven't donated in a while. Thank you. Thanks for supporting the channel. It's very generous. Mitch has joined us. Mitch says, Mitch, the cameraman, will be there tomorrow. Be sure to tune in. Well, there you go. There's our confirmation. Mitch will be here. And we'll start that build tomorrow. And that's going to go to Madi. That'll be Madi's build. The Datsun name died in the early 80s. Yeah, I had a 1980, what was it? Might have been a late 70s Datsun 210. Not a B210, just a 210. It was a blue two-door hatchback stick shift, and I beat the crap out of it. I just beat the crap out of it. Until I cracked the engine block, it was a great car. I totally beat the crap out of that car. And it took it. It was like, is that all you got? It was a very difficult car to kill. Not that I was trying to kill it, but I did unintentionally kill it, and it was going to cost more than it was worth to fix. And so, it didn't sit in the barn and rusted out. I drove the wheels off of it. So. Carey, do you remember when Peugeot were sold here in the U.S.? I remember Le Car. I remember they were selling Le Car in the 1970s. It wasn't too far from Yugo, the Yugoslavian car. And neither one of them did well. I was a kid, so I was probably under 10 years old during that time. Sometime in the 70s, I would guess. I had I think I had an '84 Camaro. It was the F-body Camaro. Absolutely one of the least reliable cars. It was nothing but trouble and very, very difficult to work on it. Nothing was installed in an easy to maintain manner. I think you had to remove the steering column to get out one of the spark plugs, which was just the dumbest design I'd ever seen. The only thing I liked about that car is when I put my foot on the gas pedal, it would push me back against the seat. And they got me in trouble more than once. But thankfully it broke down more often than it got me in trouble. What aftermarket rear case fan do you recommend that are real quiet? I don't think you can go wrong overpaying for a Noctua fan, but you've got to watch which model you're buying because Noctua makes loud fans that move a lot of air. So, do your research on that. Most modern fans from Corsair or Noctua or NZXT are going to be relatively quiet. Noctua generally has the cult-like status from the nerds who who just evangelize it. I don't think they're worth what they're charging, but they're good. I just don't think they've added a premium to their price. And the color on some of their fans is that sort of corporate brown that doesn't match anything else in your case. But nerds like that. It's their way of saying, look at me, I've got an actual fan. And if you recognize that, then I respect you. I'm not interested in that attitude. I'm interested in whether or not somebody's a jerk. I don't care about how they dress or what their fashion sense is with hardware or clothes or shoes. I don't care. Matters to me who you are, not what you are. So that being said, I've used Noctua fans myself when noise is of the utmost concern. Like my streaming computer here has a Noctua rear case fan, and there's nothing that matches that color on the case. It's ugly. Now since then, Noctua has come out with regular black fans. But when I purchased one, I ended up getting a fan that was the loudest fan I've ever heard. And it was Noctua's industrial design, which I thought meant it was going to be, very reliable. No. It meant it was really loud and it spun really fast. So I ended up having to send those back. And those were $40 or $50 a piece. And I had ordered 4 or 6 of them. I can't remember. So just because it says Noctua, you got to pay attention to which one you're getting. Carey, do you have ceiling speakers for your home theater? No, I just don't believe in that. I don't like surround sound. There's nothing about it I like. There's nothing about the wiring. Speakers go bad quite a bit. The cones dry out, especially in the desert. And the amp technology and everything's changing. So I like just a good old pair of tower speakers. Give me a good set of towers, run it into a good amp. That's all I want. If you don't feel like you're being surrounded enough, turn it up. Turn it up. I think you'd be hard pressed to know the difference in my house between surround sound and not surround sound. If I turn it up loud enough, you would have a very difficult time discerning surround sound from volume. Red Dragon has contributed $2. He said, you missed my first donation. Oh, did I? Let me see. Let me look back at all the contributors. I'll give everybody a shout out because I'm about to wrap this up for today. It's 5 o'clock. It's that time. So my thanks to, how come my list isn't showing up here? Oh, here it is. My thanks to Red Dragon, Troll McTrollington, Louis67, Max Payne, Nicholas Gibson, David Kane, Tom McDonald, Marty Yoel, Randy Hopkins, David Kane, Bill Bauer, Michael Martin, Ascended, a couple others from Marty again, and David Kane, John Stellick, Glenn Davies. There's the one from Red Dragon, the first one. Carey, my A-Data SU630 died and the warranty code is not on the RMA list. Don't know what to do next. Your warranty is decided by your receipt, the date of purchase, not by the serial number. So you will provide your receipt, and this is for every company ever, at least as far as computer hardware goes, or any electronics items in general. You will get your receipt and you will verify that the date of purchase has not exceeded the warranty period. And then you will go to ADATA's website to fill out their RMA request form and submit that information, and they will issue you an RMA number. John Peck has contributed as well, and Ian McLeod, who said, my friend asked how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? To which I would say a woodchuck could chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck wood, I think. Darren Cluth, Glenn Davies again, many more from Madi again. Thank you so much, Madi, for all your support today. And James Bovey. All right, guys, I think that about wraps it up. Joseph Jarstifer has contributed $5. He says, I've had about 20 Subarus since about 1972, and they're great, in my humble opinion. Yes, well, there are certain car manufacturers that kind of have a cult following. Volkswagen, like the Volkswagen Bug, the Beetle, certainly has their cult following. Subaru has their cult following. Jeep certainly has a cult following for Jeep. I've never owned a Jeep. In fact, I've never owned a Chrysler product at all. I've heard nothing but bad things about them. Doesn't mean they're bad. I've never had an experience with one, and who knows, maybe someday I'll own a Chrysler, Dodge, or a Jeep. But in the meantime, I've never owned those cars. But they certainly, certain car manufacturers, Mini Cooper's another one, where they have this weird following, a cult-like following. And Subaru is one of those. Just talk to Subaru Mike sometime. Just watch any videos I shoot with Subaru Mike. It's like watching an evangelist. Yeah. Of course, Jeep was a little trivia. Jeep was a military vehicle, much like a Hummer before it was called a Hummer. That all comes from the military designations, these names. Like Jeep was a general purpose vehicle, or a GP. And so the people that were using them in the military, would, instead of saying GP, they'd say Jeep. And that's how the name Jeep got to be used. I like now that you'll see like a mirror image of the word. It looks like it says beer. So I've seen that on a few Jeeps recently. I don't know how long they've been doing it. I only just recently saw it. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Louis 67 has contributed another $2 Canadian. Says, almost forgot about Mitch. Here's a Coke for him too. Well, there's a Coke waiting for you tomorrow, Mitch. Thank you. Thanks, you guys. I think that's going to wrap it up. I'm just looking just to make sure I don't want to miss any last minute opportunities here. Yeah, I think we're all caught up here. So my thanks to everybody for tuning in today. Again, a live build tomorrow afternoon. David R. Registers contributed $5. He says, hey, Carey, great to see you, my friend. Thank you, David. Thank you for your contribution. All right, you guys rock. So thanks for everybody joining us today in the chat room, participating in the chat. I really enjoy the back and forth, the interactive part of this whole thing. And for my friends in blue, keeping it civil, I appreciate that. Sometimes they get a little trigger happy, so when I see that, I'm expecting my folks in blue to do the right thing. Sometimes they get a little heavy-handed. So so I try and keep an eye on it. I expect if there's a problem for my friends in blue to make me aware of it, not to necessarily be judge, jury, and executioner on my behalf. But it seems like it's been a while since I've had that problem. But thanks, guys, for joining us. The time tomorrow when we'll be starting will probably be around noon or 1 o'clock Pacific time. Daylight savings time is coming up November the 3rd. Arizona time doesn't change, but what will happen is right now Arizona time is the same as Pacific time. And Pacific time is going to fall back an hour, but Arizona won't move. So then what's going to happen is Pacific time will be an hour behind us, and the East Coast won't be 3 hours ahead, they'll be 2 hours ahead. Because the East Coast, everybody rolls their clocks back 1 hour. except Arizona. So that gets nice and confusing around this time of year when that change occurs, but that's still a week away. Thanks you guys so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for participating in the chat. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for your kindness in the chat room, not only to myself, but to each other. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Joining me will be Mitch Morrison as we build a computer number 3 for Madi out there in Florida. And of course, thanks to Madi for all of his support and contributions, of course. That's going to wrap it up for me. And I will see you all again very, very soon. Until then.